Let's explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Badlands Book Club, covering chapter 6 and maybe 7 of Ralph Pizzulo's Stolen Elections. I just realized I said 6-7. Not supposed to be able to say that.
Oh, did you guess canceled?
Yeah. 6-7. Yeah.
That's annoying.
Yeah.
As
So how you ladies doing?
With a teenager, that is so annoying. Good. Except, yeah, I was doing great before I refreshed and caught up on the reading. Now I'm a little annoyed, but
now you're just pissed off.
I'm just pissed off again. You know, I hate when the CIA takes their eye off the ball for a minute and a worldwide drug trafficking cartel pops up without them knowing it.
Since 1948.
I mean, I kind of called that last week. I said, do you think the war on terror had anything to do with a reduced presence in South America? And we're going to find out now that apparently that was the case, at least somewhat. That's what we're told. I don't believe it, but it is what it is. Yeah. So these two chapters are heavy in the history, alleged history of Venezuela.
The CIA's historical rewrite. Yes.
Right. And the only election aspect to this is at the very end, they're like, oh, by the way, they steal elections. So it's like they run drugs, they do this. And they also
chapters. In both chapters, there's like one throwaway paragraph about elections.
Yeah. So I'm pretty much going to hand the reins over to Colonel Towner on this chapter because I know she is chomping at the bit to get into this one. But before we do that, we got to get a word from our sponsors.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets, as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, MyPillow mattresses and MyPillow mattress toppers, as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, regular $69.98. Now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, regular $49.98, on sale for $17.98. Wait on it, mega sale, only $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, your order's going to ship absolutely free.
All right, mypillow.com, promo code Badlands. And yes, Ash is going to vouch for the mattress top, and I will too at her.
Change your life. Change your life. If you buy one thing from Mike Lindell, buy the mattress topper.
I have one.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Phenomenal. All right, guys, and you also know about Van Man taking down big toothpaste with all natural oral care, right? Well, Van Man's tooth powder is loaded with minerals like eggshell and bone, and when combined with pulling oils and peppermint aloe mouth rinse, it's truly the ultimate fluoride-free dental hygiene bundle that saves you 25% off the individual price. And the van never stops. Introducing Van Man's new Pearl Eye Cream and Sweet Onion Shampoo. Head on over to badlandsmedia.tv/vanman to see what's new. Again, that's badlandsmedia.tv/vanman. All right, ladies, let's
hang on. Did you see Liberty Lions book club thing?
No.
Okay, wait, hang on. Before we get into it, we have to play this. I can't believe you haven't seen this. Apparently, he's doing like a full-length feature film, but he just has...
You talking about this?
Yeah. Play it.
Take a look, it's in a book, Badlands Book Club. Take a look.
So good. He said he's making a longer thing of it. So we'll see. Thank you.
Get an intro. We'll finally get an intro, like a permanent intro instead of.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I made this badass intro for Smedley Butler's Wars of Racket, and we did it in one show.
One show.
I was so pissed. I didn't know we'd do the book, so I made like 4 hours worth of work for one show.
Great. We should play it again.
Smash that thumbs up. Maybe I'll play it as an outro. I don't even know if I still have it on here. I don't think I do. It's
War
not-
is a Racket is a good outro for pretty much all the books we do. So,
It's true. It's true.
All of the books I do, definitely.
yeah.
It's true. All right, so let's get into it. Chapter 6.
Okay.
Venezuela and Hugo Chávez.
So basically, the overview is they're going to try to set the stage for how great Venezuela was and how corrupt it became. So I think we need to kind of counter narrative that. If you go down to the bottom of page 88, where Martin Rodil is talking about having been born in Venezuela. And this is a quote: "The Venezuela I grew up in was a stable and confident nation. We valued our democratic institutions." All right, so let's just start there. So the Venezuela that he was born into was controlled by the oligarchs in the United States, primarily the Rockefellers. And Nelson Rockefeller traveled to Venezuela quite often. As a matter of fact, he owned a whole large chain of grocery stores in Venezuela, and the agricultural industry in Venezuela was heavily influenced by the United States oligarchs. They had, and just look this up, check my work. If you look up the Office of Public Safety, which was a subordinate organization to USAID, they were everywhere in Venezuela during this time. The Office of Public Safety, for those of you who are unaware, is the organization that went throughout South America, all over. They were in Iran, they were everywhere, and set up trained National Guard and National Police forces around the world. They were responsible for the Savak setting up in Iran during the Shah, and they murdered and assassinated anyone that rebelled against the government that they controlled. About 50% of the Office of Public Safety was CIA agents posing as the Office of Public Safety. In addition to that, you had former FBI agents and former police from the United States that went down and wreaked havoc. They taught people how to kidnap people, how to assassinate people. They ran black site prisons, and they would snatch dissidents off the street, put them in these black site prisons, torture them, and to get them to rat out. It was the Phoenix program. This was prolific through South America during Operation Condor. We had one famous guy, Dan Miderone, who was a retired Richmond, Indiana police chief that went down to, I believe it was Uruguay. Yeah, Uruguay. And he got snatched and assassinated by the Tupamaros because he was snatching all of the people that their biggest crime was wanting to unionize against United States oligarchs down there that was running the mines or some type of industry down there. And the CIA would not allow them to unionize. And the National Endowment for Democracy was involved in a whole bunch of this after 1983, I believe, when it was created, but they were doing it well before. So the only reason Venezuela was not overthrown when all the rest of the governments during Operation Condor in South America was overthrown is because they already controlled it.
And
So
this isn't conspiracy theory stuff in terms of the Office of Public Safety and the background of this. This is what's listed on the Wikipedia page. This is known. This is what it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't make any of that up. It's been written about in books to a very large extent. And it was a worldwide program. It wasn't just in South America, but the South American one had its own code name called Operation Condor. And the only reason Venezuela was not listed as an Operation Condor target is because it had a controlled president already. So this is the democracy that this guy is touting as being a stable model for everyone. As a matter of fact, Delcy Rodriguez's father was killed in one of those black site CIA prisons. You know, the one that supposedly had Carlos the Jackal as her dad.
The one that's the
According,
CIA pick now,
yeah,
according to certain individuals.
yeah.
Isn't she
Her
having
dad
an
was,
affair with Cabello as well? And
Mhm.
that was alleged.
yes,
Yeah.
that same woman. Yeah. So they need to discredit her because her story is so profound, because she has talked about the fact that her father was killed in one of these black site prisons that was set up by the Office of Public Safety, CIA. There's no way that woman would have anything to do with the CIA. All right. Moving on.
Just a note on this Wikipedia page about the OPS. It says in 1974, when Congress passed Section 660 to amend the Foreign Assistance Act, banning the U.S. of training or providing assistance to police, the OP missions were transferred to the DEA and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And as a reminder, Martin Rodil enters this story out of the DEA.
Yes. These things never go away. It's like moving the School of Americas to Fort Benning. They didn't stop doing it. They just renamed it and moved it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to be clear, I wasn't accusing you of making stuff up. I'm pointing out that it's not like that we're being told different history in the book. So just pointing out that what you're telling us is consistent with what the truth has been.
Even on Wikipedia.
Even on Wikipedia. Exactly.
Okay. During the 70s, when almost all of the Latin America was in military dictatorship, Venezuela's democracy had survived. And I just explained to you,
one too.
Yeah, I just explained to you why. They already controlled Venezuela. They didn't need to overthrow Venezuela and install a military dictator. And they were so that's the whole reason why Chavez tried to stage that coup initially in the early 1980s, is because that's what they were living under. All of Venezuela was living under a controlled presidency that was controlled by the CIA. Okay. That changed in 1999 when military officer Hugo Chávez was elected president. I love the way they call him a military officer, because they're trying to associate the dictatorships in all of Latin America with Chávez, when it's exactly the opposite. He was, in fact, elected president.
Yeah. We get young paratrooper a little bit later, too.
And started to institute socialist reforms as part of his self-named Bolivarian revolution that resulted in the ongoing socio-economic, political, and human rights crisis. They didn't have a human rights crisis while they were snatching people off the street to black site prisons. They only had a human rights issue after Chavez was elected president. Skipping down, as president, he ran Venezuela's economy. What?
No. Go ahead. Keep reading. This part's hilarious.
He ran Venezuela's economy almost totally on oil, which was priced high at the time, and invested a large portion of the profits into social programs to help the poor. But his administration was corrupt and cronyism was rampant, and many of his administration managers were inept. He also suppressed the press, which he did not, because the CIA was basically in bed with one of the press affiliates down there, manipulated electoral law, and arrested and exiled government critics, which he actually did not do. They actually left and moved to Miami.
That's a really interesting part of this chapter, is how it talks about the people that left. And it's all the educated elites, the middle class, and then later in the Biden era time period, you get the poor people and the Tren de Aragua people. But the steady migration from Venezuela to the United States and to other countries within the region was the aristocratic class, essentially,
because they were in bed with the CIA.
Right. I told you guys this,
which is what you've said all along.
Yeah, I've said this. Well, I've said this. The Venezuelans that we have down here in South Florida are very well-to-do Venezuelans. They live in Weston, Florida, mainly, Miami as well, but I'm talking in Broward. They mainly live in Weston, very, very well-to-do neighborhood. Used to be extremely exclusive. Now it's kind of opened up a little bit, but So the people that, when Maduro was captured and they're down in Miami saying, "Oh, we're so grateful we got him," you're interviewing the people that were thrown out of the country because
Yes.
they were the corrupt individuals that were, now granted, that's not everyone, there
Correct.
there are
Hashtag
some
not
folks-
all Venezuelans, sure.
right, for sure. But the ones that are the most vocal and have been for a long time, yeah, that's all
Yes.
this.
The ones with the most liability in their own country.
Yep.
Chavez increasingly aligned himself with authoritarian nations and anti-Western radical movements, and his relationship with Cuba and Iran became particularly important. So this is very important to understand in how this operation works. Chavez didn't align himself with them. As soon as he became president, the United States cut them off.
Yep.
Period.
That
Cut
was
them
their
off.
only option.
So they are forced to go to people who don't give a shit about what the United States thinks about trade, because we push them. This is the blowback from our foreign policy. We push them into the arms of radical governments, if you want to even label them radical governments. And in the case with Venezuela, one of their biggest trading partners, which no one talks about, is Turkey. And supposedly Turkey's part of NATO, but they don't give a crap what the United States thinks about them since Erdogan took over. But it is very remarkable that they flip the justification for why things are happening to completely kneel and void the reality on the ground. The United States, after Chavez became president, cut Venezuela off because they didn't approve of him. He was not one of their controlled puppets. And also, anti-Western radical movements. Chavez came to the United States. Chavez is the guy that was giving free oil to Americans. He owned Citgo. He was not anti-Western at all. He was very Western friendly until we cut him off. There was a program that he set up for poor people in the United States to give them heating oil for the winter. Again, this is not something that a communist does. So also, there was one other point I was going to make. When it says that he was, let's see, that his relationship with Cuba and Iran became particularly important. The relationship with Iran occurred fairly more recently, but the relationship with Cuba had obviously been an ongoing one when he got cut off from the United States trade. But you can go back and do a search on Chavez and his original. Oh, the other point I wanted to make is his education. So it does say that he starts these social programs. Do you know that when Chavez took over presidency, their literacy rate was like 20%, 10%. It was for the general population, because the previous governments did no investments in the people because they wanted to use them as slaves to the Western oligarchs. There was no education in rural places. As a matter of fact, when I was researching Chavez, he had to actually go live with a relative because they only had elementary school education in his little enclave. He had to go other places to go to junior high and high school because the schools were so sparse in the rural areas. And their literacy rate at the end of Chavez's presidency, when he died, was like, it's well above the United States. Well above the United States. So he invested that money not in a corrupt government, but in the people of Venezuela.
Yeah,
Well,
and
I
they
mean-
say down here that his overspending, the government's overspending on social programs and strict business policies caused imbalances in the country's economy, contributed to rising inflation, poverty, low healthcare spending, and widespread shortages of food staples and basic necessities.
Absolutely not true.
Yeah.
That was done because the Rockefellers' monopoly on the grocery industry left when Venezuela, we cut them off. We wouldn't let anybody trade with them.
So sanctions.
Yep.
Right.
Sanctions.
Yeah. I wrote on the next page, at the top of the next page, where it talks about over the past 2 decades, and it goes into the fruit of the Chavez, the fruit of the Chavez regime. My comment in the thing is, how much of this is a result of the sanctions versus,
All of it.
they're just so corrupt and they took all the money and they looted all of the industries and they looted all of the oil money and they kicked out all the investment and they did all of these things. Is that it, or is it sanctions?
Sanctions.
Sanctions.
Every
and they've
neighbor.
persevered the whole time. That's
Yes.
the crazy part. They've been
Yes.
resistant to it.
The all of their neighbors were notified immediately that if they traded with Venezuela, their foreign aid from the United States would be cut off. Every single neighbor. No trading. That's what caused the inflation and the bare supermarket shelves.
The other thing that I set this right, the outsized influence of Fidel Castro. That Fidel Castro is like the criminal mastermind for the world during this period, according to the telling of this book. How does that work?
So again, it has to do with Fidel Castro being the one person in the Western Hemisphere that doesn't get foreign aid from the United States. He doesn't care. Castro needed what Venezuela had, which was oil. And Castro had a huge surplus of medical capability, which he traded with Venezuela because obviously the cutting off of medical supplies and stuff like that was critical to Venezuela. And so they were just basically trading back and forth for one of their only local trading partners. Now, I'm not saying that Castro is a good guy. I'm saying that Castro.
There are no good guys in this.
Yeah,
that's
shows
the takeaway.
Castro shows up in these places, as did Che Guevara, anytime the United States was attacking a Latin American country. And he did it to help them thwart the CIA's overthrowing of their government, because he had the best trained people to do it, because they tried to assassinate him over 400 times. And so if there's an expert on thwarting CIA assassination attempts, that would have been Castro. So it was the CIA that created the need for Castro to provide security and help to these foreign leaders to thwart the overthrow of their governments. It isn't the other way around.
Yeah.
All right. So on page 90, I didn't have really anything. It's just nauseating statistics as far as the healthcare system that they were trying to but I do want to make one point where it talks about infant mortality. That is a direct result of sanctions and the cutting off of people to provide help to Venezuela.
Yeah, like prenatal vitamins and
Yes.
pap smears and basic healthcare. This is a big long paragraph about the impact on healthcare, and it also reads, so in addition to it just being a very sad story of the impact of sanctions on stripping people of medical care, and the doctors flee, the skilled labor leaves, according to the telling, but it's also a cautionary tale that kind of props up the power of the WHO and the need for these large scale NGOs to come in and do vaccine programs and all of this kind of stuff, and see what happens when you don't have us. I wrote that in the margins as well. It's kind of my takeaways.
And speaking of that, wouldn't Venezuela be the perfect place for, if the World Health Organization was actually about health? Wouldn't they have wanted to help Venezuela? They didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't help at all.
And they would have said, I would imagine, I don't know, but they would have said something like, they won't let us in. Chavez won't let us in, right? Or Maduro won't let us in to help them, but really they're not helping them at all.
Well, the U.S. would have told the WHO they'd cut off their funding.
Yeah.
That's why they don't do it. They're controlled, just like every other NGO.
It's organized crime. It's organized crime. It's the same, like you're going to pay the tribute or you're not. Oh, you're going to help out those guys? Well, we're going to break your kneecaps. It's the same.
Yes.
It's the same tactics.
Yes. Okay.
But for good guy reasons or something.
The last paragraph on page 90, as of the start of this year, as many as 10 million Venezuelan migrant refugees and asylum seekers have left the country, with approximately 85% relocating to Latin America and the Caribbean. The initial wave of migrants were highly educated professionals, to your point. And of course, that is part and parcel of what they tried to do, and the reason why that happened with Cuba as well. Not only do they actually instigate their leaving, they incentivize their leaving for brain drain. They want them to leave so that the country will fail. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Operation Peter Pan, but it was orchestrated through the Catholic Church in Cuba to take an entire generation of primarily males from rich Catholic families that remained in Cuba. What they did in Peter Pan is, and you can look this one up too, they used a psychological operation in Cuba, and it was spread through the Catholic Church that any day Castro was going to take all of the young males and send them for military training in the Soviet Union and put them in Siberia to work. And if they didn't give over their sons to the Catholic Church so they could sneak them out of Cuba in the Operation Peter Pan, that they were going to be stolen from them and sent to the Soviet Union. So you had this entire fleet of kids that arrived in Miami as part of Operation Peter Pan. Some were taken in by families, but a large portion of them were put in orphanages in foster care and never saw their parents again.
That's so evil. So you traumatize the parents into thinking that their children are going to be snatched and stolen, so they willingly hand them over to the church,
the Catholic Church.
Oh my God, it's so evil.
So that's just part and parcel of the psychological operations that are done inside of these countries in order to entice people to leave those countries, because then it's a propaganda tool. Oh my gosh, look at all of these people that came over to the United States because we're all safe and comfy here, when it was all instigated by the CIA.
And the intention of all of that, so create the fear landscape to generate the problem for the parents, so they jump right into your solution. And the intention of that is to take a generation of young men, take a generation of men out of the country, so the country will be vulnerable, so we can fucking conquer it.
Yes.
This is so evil. It's so despicable and evil.
Yeah. And that's what happens with a lot of these refugees and these vulnerable children. What you don't see at the other end of that pipeline is the instigation by the CIA to create the refugee problem to provide the solution of them coming to the United States.
Oh, temporary protective status, right? Huge priority of the prior administration, beginning on the campaign trail in 2019 to extend and expand the temporary protective status program. And what is that? What kind of incentive is that? Well, to the skilled laborers, that's a hell of an incentive. to your white collar workforce.
Yes.
Come to America, you get set up, you get benefits, you get protected. There's no immigration at your door, and
it
goal,
steals
probably, right?
from that country. It steals from that country the very people that can help the country survive.
Yeah.
By the way,
yeah. So when we say why don't these people stay and make their countries better, well, because we're literally incentivizing them to come here.
Correct.
Did you see today the federal judge ruled that DHS doesn't have the authority to not renew TPS status?
Yeah.
You saw that, Ash? Yeah.
Yeah.
The Haitian TPS expires this month.
Who doesn't have the authority?
Kristi Noem, who has the explicit authority to
I think that might stand though, because because it is either through executive order or it's through Congress. But TPS has been done.
No, so I looked this up when we were talking about the Somali thing, and it is through DHS, the Secretary of DHS, that renewing TPS is done. But it's the administration, it's the executive, period.
Yeah.
One way or the other. It's not Congress that does that. And the reason the judge said is because she believes Kristi Noem is doing it because she's racist. Because she said disparaging things about the Haitian population. And then the 5 plaintiffs, like Ash just alluded to, she's like, oh, well, the plaintiffs are neuroscientists and, they're working in labs and all this stuff. And Gordon made a great point today and said, those are the people they need in Haiti to help rebuild that damn country. And you're keeping them over here when we don't need them. Yep.
And it's all on purpose.
Yep. It's all on purpose.
Okay.
So in the next paragraph, I think it's the next paragraph, it's estimated that $1 trillion a year in profits were injected into social spending and his political agenda, referring to Chávez. I can't imagine a world in which $1 trillion in a country of 29 million people, allegedly, 29 million people, $1 trillion into social programs in the country is unhappy about that. That just sounds completely made up.
Right.
The electronic voting system and the growth of Smartmatic, Sequoia, and Dominion are a big part of that global agenda. Much of the Chavez regime's political ire continues to be directed at the United States, even after his death. That's the next sentence after injecting the $1 trillion. So the $1 trillion is into social programs as well as into developing the source code.
Yeah, but yet throughout this chapter, they tell us how much these people hate America, but their rigged election system is installed throughout America, and they've done nothing to change the regime to one that's more favorable to them so that they don't hate America. And so they're not sanctioned into poverty like we're talking about in this chapter. It is remarkably, absurdly retarded.
Yeah.
And they basically they don't cite any proof of any of that. Again, no footnotes. No.
Yeah.
Just made up shit.
Throughout. When they do, so they do start sourcing a little bit in here. They source CIA reports, right? So in the CIA report from 1992 from this region, we knew that blah, blah, blah. They cite Insight Crime.
Yeah, we're going to get to that one.
Okay. All right. I'll hold my commentary then.
All right. So that last paragraph on 91, some have argued that Chávez's war on Venezuela's professional classes, which, by the way, mostly self-deported once Chávez got in charge, started in 2003 when he fired 18,000 employees from what is the PDVSA, the National Oil Company, after they went on strike. That would be like saying that Ronald Reagan had no authority to fire people after the air traffic controllers went on strike. Okay, Venezuela had more registered patents per capita in the United States than almost any other country. And it goes on to say that on the next page, while many Venezuelan public companies were characterized by clientelism and corruption, PDVSA had a reputation of being meritocratic and professional.
Yeah.
Only originally because it was controlled by Exxon and the oil oligarchs of the United States.
The premise of this is so retarded. So the engine of this nation's economy is oil. But the one industry that isn't corrupted in this massively corrupt country is the oil in the state-run PDVSA oil company? No, that doesn't make any sense.
And what is very interesting about this is the arm of the National Endowment for Democracy, labor. They have 4 pots of money. One of them is labor. And every time that the workers in Venezuela would try to unionize or go on a strike, just as what happened in next door neighbor Guyana, they would be infiltrated. Their union efforts there would be some type of violence as a part of that, blamed on the state in order to point fingers at a leader as being anti-union or whatever, when it was in fact the CIA controlling National Endowment for Democracy's money that would thwart effective unionization in these areas. So the entire premise is retarded.
Yeah.
By the way, War Hamster, good to see you, brother, says that Venezuela's economy capped at 480 billion, and I think that's their GDP, so that it's gross. And they're saying it's $1 trillion in profit every year that's injected.
Was it
a
trillion a year? Oh, $1 trillion a
Yeah.
year. Yeah, they should. Wow.
$1 trillion a year. I mean, come on. Like, this is AI would have written this book better than this guy wrote this book.
Yes. But
Probably would have
the
fewer
AI
typos
would
as
not
well.
have written a
A
propaganda
narrative.
book.
Right. Unless you
You
convinced
can
it to.
get
I'm
AI
sure
to
this-
write propaganda.
Yeah, I'm sure the CIA has a propaganda AI. It's
This
called
is probably way better than anything we have.
ChatGPT. It's called
All right.
all AI is CIA propaganda.
Page 92 in the middle, former PDVSA employees fearing for their futures left Venezuela.
Sure.
The number of Venezuelans living and working in Canadian oil province of Alberta rose. So, okay, maybe
One more reason to hate Canada.
Yeah. In Colombia, the influx of these highly skilled workers into their national oil company also doubled. Their national oil company. So Venezuela's bad for nationalizing their oil company, but Colombia collected them all in their nationalized oil company. Okay.
Well, but did Colombia kick out U.S. oil companies?
No. And Colombia has been under the control of the CIA. I know Gordon argues that the current guy's okay, but for decades, Venezuela or Colombia was under the thumb of the CIA, and because of them being the major producer of cocaine.
Isn't the current guy in Colombia the guy that is the other one that Fidel Castro was going to install?
That's what it says in the book.
That's what it says in the book. So arguably, Gordon might be right.
He also met with
arguably.
He met with President Trump today. I haven't gotten to watch it yet, but
Petro did.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was in the White House today.
Yeah. Okay. And then it says that they went from producing 3.2 million barrels per day in 2002 to 717. Why would that be? Because their oil industry is sanctioned.
No demand. Yeah.
No, there's plenty of demand
all
over the
can't
world.
Sell it, right, but they can't sell it because there's no demand to Venezuela because they're sanctioned.
Yes.
And we'll cut them off.
So, yeah. And it just, the whole thing is.
And the story that we're being told is that it went from 3.2 million to 717,000 because of the corruption of the Chávez regime and the ineptitude and the fact that they fired all the smart people and hired loyal crony people who didn't know what they were doing, and they ran the oil industry into the ground. This is a story that we've been told about Venezuela for 20 years.
And we cut them off from getting any repair capability to any of their oil industry. So if something broke, they had no ability to call and say, hey, I need this part, because the people generating those parts now doesn't do business with them.
Yeah, won't work with you. We can't help you.
Yeah. The next chapter down talks about the Venezuelan Institute of Scientific Research experienced a systematic cleansing of researchers and personnel because of the Chavez regime. We've already covered that. They left because they were cronies of the previous administration. Okay.
Is that fired the head of 30 cultural institution? Is there a clip of that somewhere? Because it says they did it on live TV, and I don't know. I always enjoyed that clip of Xi Jinping telling that guy to get out.
Oh,
that one, you know. So I wonder, is there a Chavez version of this with the heads of 30 cultural institutions?
Well, understand that the cultural institutions were ran by USAID. Yeah. So they were all pro DEI, pro LGBT alphabet soup. So if he's trying to restore the Christianity of their country, which he was, that's kind of consistent with what Putin did and Hungary did and all of the other people that want to promote Christianity in their country. So that's
even more of a reason I want to see the clip. In fact, I'm going to look at the clip while you guys keep going.
Yeah, and that's kind of there's several articles about him being anti-LGBT alphabet soup. And so it only makes sense that he would try to get rid of those people that had been placed in those positions, because a lot of them were double dipping with USAID NGOs. All right. At the bottom of the page, it talks about the Tasson list with the names of more than 2 million people who had signed a recall referendum against Chavez. The list was used to lay off hundreds of workers at state institutions and companies, which I find hilarious because the CIA had a list of people to disappear in the previous administration. So even if he had a list that he actioned retribution against, which again, there's no documentation to support any of this. It's certainly not a kill list, which is what the CIA had done when they were running Venezuela.
Well, so I looked up the Tascon list because I was wondering where that lines up with, what was it, the Carmona decree? And you know, they're about 2 years apart, but you got to remember in 2002 there was literally a coup that was orchestrated against Chavez.
Correct.
And this was, you know, it had Aguna Matata was involved in that,
yes.
you know, and others. And you know, now 2 years after Chavez was able to quell that coup, you see this guy Tascon, who was in the parliament in the National Assembly, is essentially organizing the same thing, but this time he's trying to do it, you know, under the guise of a legal, you know, referendum to remove him. And I mean, I don't know the specifics about what Chavez did with the list of people, but I mean, I can't blame the guy for, you know, almost being cooed 2 years ago by the CIA and then seeing another emergence, you know, reemergence of that same resistance.
And what's interesting is, so for a real big dictator that they're trying to make the argument that Chavez is, how is USAID still there?
I mean, they're not supposed to be.
How is Hakuna Matata still able to receive hundreds of thousands of dollars? They spent millions of dollars between 2002 and 2004 in that referendum. How are they operating in there if he was such a dictator?
That's the question that made Patrick Byrne publicly unfollow Gordon. Is he was following him, and he said very rarely does a comment, you know, often a comment will earn a follow. Very rarely does it make me unfollow. And the question was, if Maduro is such a terrible dictator, how is it that Maria Corina Machado and who's the other guy?
Juan Guaido.
How are they allowed to be the opposition in the way that they're being the opposition inside of Venezuela? Those two things are at odds. And Patrick Byrne, like, this is really dumb. Answer the question, though.
Yeah, and for many of those years during this time period, the opposition actually had more in what was their equivalent of the Congress. They actually control the Congress. How is that allowed if
Yeah.
their election system's so corrupted?
Yep.
How did the opposition even get elected to run their Congress? So
They forgot to turn it on in their own country.
the down ballots. It was the down ballots. They just turned it on for the top post. In 2017 alone, 4,000 Venezuelan engineers moved to Argentina. And again, these are just made up numbers. I looked on the UN website where they're talking about refugees and all that. I can't find any verification for any of these numbers.
No, interesting. I did. I think it was. I thought it was interesting that the fleeing of the skilled talent began in 2001, or 1999, but in earnest, according to the book, in 2001. And by 2019, they still had 21,000 engineers to leave.
Yeah.
This is like the numbers in Gaza, right? Like the Gazans have been being wiped out my entire life. How are there any left?
Yeah,
because it's every time this kind of conflict occurs, it's like you're making it a parking lot. We're wiping everybody out, but there doesn't ever seem to be a shortage of people when they need numbers to create outrage about.
So on page 93, halfway down, I just laughed out loud. I had to read this to my husband. Today, electricity and water shortages are widespread. So are they in California.
Yeah.
Less than 30% of Venezuelans have regular supply of water. Electricity rationing and blackouts are common, as the blackouts happen in America because of green energy.
Yeah.
I find that whole thing hilarious. You're criticizing Venezuela, who's been under attack for 20 years, for not having electricity when we just voluntarily gave it up.
And California is what, the third, fifth largest economy in the world?
Yeah. With water.
With the same problem. Yeah.
Yeah. And following is a 2012 report from the International Commission of Jurists. The International Commission of Jurists concludes that the lawyers in Venezuela cannot fully exercise their profession freely and independently. That might actually make me move to Venezuela if you're not going to have the lawyers running the country.
Well, that's so what I wrote down about this is that this is the same kind of thing, when it says at the same time, the right to freedom of association of lawyers has been violated by the measures that have been adopted. Lawyers take on the defense of people with a high public profile. They're typically identified with the causes of their clients. So we're talking about John Eastman and Jeff Clark.
Yep.
Huh?
Yep.
Right. You're much better than the corrupt Venezuelans. It's exactly the same problem again. Also, California is the fourth largest economy in the world. So split the difference.
The hypocrisy of this entire section onto page 94 just made me laugh out loud.
Yeah.
They're talking about all of the crap that's going on in our country and projecting it onto Venezuela and saying it's bad.
Bad.
Okay.
Yeah. We actually agree that, like, the American Bar Association controlling the incentive structure of attorneys so that they won't practice their craft to the fullest of their ability, and the free to give their clients the best defense or the best offense that they can. They won't do it because of the incentive structure of the professional associations. And that I agree, that's bad.
They remove people's bar license for it.
Yep.
They imprisoned Sidney Powell for it.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. All right. Moving on. 94 at the bottom. I don't know if you guys had anything else on there, but Venezuela was quickly identified as a country that showed incalculable potential for petroleum extraction. And then it says,
I think the paragraph before that is important. So Venezuela's economic engine, the oil industry, got its start in 1914 with the drilling of an oil field known as Zumaque during the jungle town of Mene Grande, a few miles from the eastern shore. This was accomplished under the supervision of American Ralph Arnold and a team of geologists. So we've always been there. we're kind of there at the
Yes.
start of the industry.
Yes.
And I thought it was interesting. Like only 2 of the men spoke Spanish. Very different.
So Ralph Arnold is interesting because this whole geology thing has been fascinating to me with Sullivan and Cromwell and the Rockefellers, and they're deploying geologists all over Latin America looking for oil. Under some of them posed as missionaries and all kinds of other things in order to scout out geological finds like gold and oil and stuff like that. So it is very interesting that they had an entire Nelson Rockefeller commissioned an entire mapping, little airplanes flying all over South America to spot oil. They exploited the entire thing because there's certain geological attributes to mountains that have gold and stuff like that. They did it in Indonesia too, all during this period of time. And then mysteriously we go in and control the government. And in the case with Indonesia, we overthrew the government when we decided that he wasn't going to play ball with us, and killed 1 million people in the aftermath of that. But this is fascinating to me that this just kind of goes along with that whole story.
So 1914, the oil industry in Venezuela is birthed under the supervision of Americans. Within a matter of years, more than 100 foreign companies are producing oil from 1908 to 1935. By the 1930s, 3 foreign companies controlled 98% of the Venezuelan oil market.
Yeah. Gulf, Royal
Seems
Dutch,
like a risk
Shell,
for the people of Venezuela.
and Standard Oil. And by the way, those were the same people that were involved in Indonesia.
Those were Gulf and Standard Oil are American,
Standard Oil was the Rockefellers.
right? And what was Gulf? What country was
know.
that associated with? It's no big deal. I was just wondering.
I'll look it up.
And Royal Dutch Shell, of course, is the Netherlands. Okay. And then it says that Gomez's successors sought to reform the oil sector.
It's the Melons. Sorry, Colonel.
Yeah,
it's the Melons. Gulf Oil, founded in 1901 following the Spindletop discovery, was a major Seven Sisters oil entity that merged with Chevron in the 80s, effectively ending its run as an independent U.S. corporation. It was founded in Pittsburgh by the Mellon family and was a dominant force in the 20th century.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew it was American. Okay. So, anyway, the rest of this just basically gives a little bit more history about the industry. I thought it was fascinating down at the bottom of page 95 when it talks about the 1960 Venezuela joined Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia as a founding member of OPEC. How'd that work out for them?
Well, in about 20 years, Iran's going to get overthrown. Iraq's going to get overthrown in about 30 years. Kuwait, same thing. And the Saudis, they've been kind of resistant. They play ball, though.
They had their own overthrow when MBS took over, but quite differently.
He put it back, but Saudis have always played ball with the United States.
100%.
The other 3 countries, well, Kuwait has too, but Iraq and Iran definitely didn't.
Well, and Standard Oil had the predominant presence in Saudi Arabia, and that was never challenged. So as long as you play ball,
right, you stay okay.
Yeah. And I find it interesting that Standard Oil used Sullivan and Cromwell a lot, which is the Dulles Brothers law firm. And then you have the CIA activity all throughout Venezuela, and Nelson Rockefeller's presence down there. So it just all kind of goes into one big jar. All right. Anyway, it talks a little bit about OPEC and their profits.
And the big shift from a Venezuela standpoint is that during this period of time, during the 20th century, the Venezuelans are kind of clawing back some of these profits, right? So they originally come in and say 50%. And then when we're talking about it looks like in the 60s, it's increasing it to 65%. It sounds like they're going to take 100% and throw us out, but that's building on that page.
Yeah. All right. On page 96, in the early 60s, during the Cold War, Cubans led by Fidel Castro and sponsored by the Soviet Union began a program of political infiltration and influence building that was aimed at trying to wrestle control of Venezuela oil by turning Venezuela into a socialist state. There's literally no evidence of that.
The next sentence, I literally heard Colonel Towner laugh in my head when I read it.
Go ahead and read it.
The U.S., through the State Department and CIA, countered with programs like the Alliance for Progress and others whose object was to build infrastructure, democratic institutions, and instill the ideals of democracy.
Yes. So Alliance for Progress, a CIA front, same time the Office of Public Safety is building the black sites and doing all of those nefarious things. That was the State Department and the CIA countering just in case somebody does a little research into what Venezuela was like prior to Chavez, they want to already seed the narrative here that the State Department and the CIA, all about democracy, was thwarting the communist threat of Cuba, and that's the only reason we were there. Now, it doesn't explain why we built black site prisons and disappeared people, but,
Well, and it created the need in the early 60s. It created the need to instill democratic institutions and the ideals of democracy into the nation of Venezuela. However, Martin Rodil's story was that in 1958, they were a stable democracy.
Yes. Isn't that crazy?
It is. It's almost like we didn't fact check the book before he put it out. Nobody ran the timeline because the timeline gets real wonky in these two chapters.
Yeah. In large part, the American effort was successful. It was very successful if you consider what their actual objective was, which was control and not democratic institutions at all. It goes on to say that Clinton administration, which assumed power in early 1993, basically abandoned the policies of protecting Venezuela and shifted their attention to conflicts in Haiti and Somalia.
I wonder why.
So,
because what happens next, they want to not have anything to do with. So it's, we weren't looking, we weren't paying attention. Whoops. Sorry, guys. We took our eye off the ball. And then this cartel sprung up.
Yeah. And it's, to me, this is just so astoundingly retarded. Abandon the policies of democracy, while, as you point out, Rodil is saying it was perfectly fine. We had a thriving democracy right up until Chavez got elected. So, and what we do in Haiti and Somalia, we fucked them up too.
Yep.
Totally destroyed them. So we're supposed to believe we didn't destroy Venezuela with our democracy efforts as we move to Haiti and Somalia. All right. But it's all Castro's fault. I don't know if you guys
and let's not forget, like, from a confirmation bias standpoint, right? Gary Bernstein's whole life is Cuba, right? In the first chapters of this book, we learned that that's his focus, that's his region, that's his whole career is Cuba and the surrounding areas, doing super duper good guy CIA stuff in that region. So it's every time I just think about that, with how hard in his bio he goes after Cuba, and listening to his interviews, right, always comes back to Cuba. It's like a surgeon's always going to want to cut, right? There's this bias in there, and you can sort of feel it every time Cuba comes. Cuba is the bad guy.
But that goes back to the Bay of Pigs. The Bay of Pigs will never die in the CIA ever. It was the most humiliating defeat and generated their pure hatred of JFK because he told them going in, he will not authorize the military, and they all thought he would. They didn't plan the Bay of Pigs well enough for it to succeed. They were baiting JFK into unleashing the United States military in Cuba. And when he refused to do it, they hated him so much, they killed him.
Yep.
And that will never die with these CIA people. It is the scab that will never heal. So anytime they have an opportunity to bash Cuba, whether it's deservingly or not, it will be bashed.
Yeah.
All right. In 1992, according to the whistleblowers, the whistleboys, he summoned two of his most promising Latin American assets to Havana, a young Venezuelan paratrooper named Hugo Chávez and former Colombian guerrilla Gustavo Petro, currently the first leftist president of Colombia. Oh, you mean the guy that was just at the White House? Together with his head of intelligence, Minister Interior, I don't know how you say that name.
Abelardo Colome Ibarra.
Yeah.
Castro outlined a plan to install them in power.
Yeah, actually, it says Castro outlined a plan to install them, both men, in power. That's what mine says. Is that what yours says?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know if they actually visited. Again, we don't have a news clipping. We don't have any verification that any of that is true. And I find it interesting that Chavez was elected, not installed. You know, that democracy thing that they say was such a stable democracy for all of this time. Yeah.
And they didn't have the fake election machines for his first election either. So
they
that was
sure
organic,
did not.
allegedly.
Yes.
Yeah, that gets a little. I don't think we're going to get to chapter 7, but that gets a little long. That whole time frame thing with the machines, that gets a little.
Oh, it's right here in the next one. It says it's in the next paragraph. He ran for president in 98 and won with 56.2% of the vote.
I'm not disagreeing with the point you just made. I'm saying in the next chapter, the timeline around the election and the machines is wonky.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
That little interesting story that Martin told him is freaking hilarious.
Read it.
Here's an interesting story told to me by Martin. During the height of President Chavez's political control in the late 2000s, he attended a military parade. He was seated with all his generals in the grandstand, and this little old lady came walking in front of them. One of Chavez's top generals got up and gave her a seat because he recognized the old lady as Chavez's mother. The next day, the general got a call from Chavez's secretary summoning him to the president's office. When the general entered, Chavez asked him, "Why did you give that woman your seat yesterday during the parade? Did I tell you to give her your seat?" "No, Mr. Presidente," the general answered, "but I saw it es tu madre." "Did I tell you to do that?" Chavez asked, growing more agitated. "No, Mr. Presidente, but it was your mother, and I have so much respect for you." President Chavez called his guard and said, "Arrest this man." Chavez's guard put the general in a jail cell and kept him there for 60 days.
But why? But why did he do that? Why was he so upset about it, Brian?
Because they look dark.
Because Chavez was the product of a relationship his mother had with a black man. And as an illegitimate child, he was never accepted by his father, who sent him to live with his grandmother, Rosa, in a lower middle class home subsidized by the government. That created the psychological opportunity for Fidel Castro to become his daddy.
So again, I explained to you guys why he went to live with his grandmother to go to school. It had nothing to do with this. And I only found
wasn't because he was half black.
I've only found one picture on the internet of the Chavez family. They all look just like Chavez.
So they don't have blue eyes and blonde hair?
Not in that.
Isn't that what
picture.
they say? Yeah. All of his brothers and sisters had blonde hair and blue eyes.
I'd like to see that picture. You would think that they would put that in here.
You would think.
I only found one picture that supposedly is of him and the siblings, and they all look just like Chavez.
Yeah. Well, in addition to being a half-breed bastard, he was also a sex addict, because we're just going all the way on the character smear here.
Yeah. All right. So I don't have anything else until
So hold on. This is allegedly Hugo Chávez's parents. Allegedly.
yeah.
That he's
Late-
illegitimate. It's not his dad. He has
asking-
a black dad.
So I'm asking
How
perplexed.
did that get blonde hair and blue eyes?
All right. So I asked if there's any parents of pictures of his parents.
And his siblings too.
I mean, that's not a black man.
But she's saying that it's some like mailman.
Yeah. That's
But
how they tee it
Right.
up, right?
But even
Yeah.
if it's a mailman that's black, they're saying that all of his siblings are blonde hair and blue eyes. How do you get blonde hair and blue eyes out of those two people?
Yeah, they don't.
I'm guessing the two women right there are his sisters. That because that dude on the right in the white shirt looks exactly like Hugo Chávez.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. That's weird. Okay.
It's lies. It's not weird. It's just flat out lies.
Yeah, where can we see pictures of the blonde-haired, blue-eyed siblings? Surely
Yes.
there are some pictures.
No.
No?
No, the only pictures that you find are people that look just like Chavez.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, the reason so that lie then, right? Allegedly he's the illegitimate child of a black man and his mother. That presents the psychological opportunity for him to basically become a puppet of Fidel Castro. Fidel Castro is sending him messages every single day. Fire this guy, add this guy, do this thing, blah, blah, blah. They make it sound like Fidel Castro is running the country because Hugo Chávez had this daddy void that Fidel Castro filled. So the lie is not just a random lie for no reason. It's a very purposeful one if it is in fact a lie.
Yes. And that's what the CIA does best. Psychological lies.
He looks exactly like his fucking dad.
We have to get to the
Yes, he
Ukrainian
does.
prostitutes too.
All right, let's go.
Go ahead.
Okay, so on the next page we get to
He's a terrible sex addict.
Chavez also had the reputation. I was just looking to see if the thing about the political situations, it's just going more on the Castro. They're really going hard at Castro. Chavez had the reputation of being a terrible sex addict. He was known to summon any attractive wife of a general that caught his eye and young female graduate of the military academy to the presidential palace and rape them. Even if Chavez was in the process of raping a young woman or engaged in some other murder or mayhem, when the Cuban ambassador knocked on the door, he would stop what he was doing and read the instructions from Castro. And my comment that I wrote here is just what?
Yeah. I put
Literally what
WTF. I put WTF.
It's like, yeah. So,
So,
all he
again-
does is rape and murder.
Hugo,
He's just always
paso?
raping and murdering, except when he will stop raping and murdering for a moment to take a letter from Fidel
Okay,
Castro.
so now this entire time Chavez is president, especially the first 4 years while all the coups are going on, do you think that there would be a story written by the CIA in the local news in Venezuela that said something to this effect?
Something.
There's nothing.
God, this is so stupid. This book is
Nothing.
so fucking stupid.
So I went on their websites on Yandex so I could read the Spanish articles translated. You cannot find these accusations in local opposition newspapers anywhere. So if anybody else finds them, I'll be open-minded. I could not find any of them. It's like saying all of this crap about Trump, that he's, the Epstein stooge. And so it's the same psychological operation over and over again until you're like, but if they had something on him, why would you wait to 2026?
that was this. When I was reading this, I was literally like, "This is the PP tapes." You know, the
Yes.
Russian
Yes.
hookers peeing on him. That was
Well,
like
Ukrainian and Belarusian hookers in the
no,
book, but
well,
yes,
with Trump, it was Russian hookers. With Chavez, it's
Ukrainian and Belarusian.
Ukrainian and Belarusian. But he likes all women, so it's Venezuelans too, and probably Cubans, and maybe Epstein's going to pop up in this.
And that is in here for the audience sake. Well, they do make him sound adjacent, right? And it's probably just because that story, the Epstein, thing is so fresh and viral right now but they're going that direction. Certainly, he's a rapist and a murderer, and he just be like, you can't possibly. This guy doesn't have any natural rights. This guy is so bad that he doesn't have any presumption of innocence. We don't have to even think about whether or not he might not have done the thing we say, because it doesn't matter, because he's just so bad, because all he's doing is out there raping and murdering all the time. Dehumanization to let you, what is it? When you believe absurdities, you'll forgive atrocities or something like that. It's they did this to us. They did this to Trump supporters and election deniers. They did this to parents at abortion clinics or school board meetings. The dehumanization, so that the people in your community and around you, well, you don't really even need your rights of the accused. We can just waive those because you're so bad. That's what's happening here.
Yes. So the last paragraph, go ahead.
No, go ahead. If you want to close out the chapter, and then I'll just give
the last paragraph on 99. This alliance of all of these nefarious rapists, murderers, Martin said, quote, "A banana republic, a tiny island of desperately poor people, that is communist Cuba, have been able to disrupt democracy, not just in Venezuela, but in the whole Western Hemisphere, including the United States and the rest of the world. Not the CIA that's overthrown over 90 countries around the world. It all emanates from this one tiny little island that no one will talk to and is not allowed to do business with."
Yeah.
Okay. Once Chavez was in power, Cuba's mission was to keep him there. He was their bank. And when Chavez's presidency was threatened after the recall referendum in 1993, they found a new way to deal with that challenge by creating the software program, an electronic voting company to steal the vote.
So it wasn't in the next chapter. It's in this.
No,
chapter.
it's in both chapters at the end.
But
Both
this point in 1993, the presidency was threatened after the recall election of 1993, recall referendum of 1993. Then they created a software program. That timing is off from how we've been told this.
But it's the wrong date.
It's the wrong date. It's 2003, not 1993.
Correct.
So
it's not even error.
It's not even like you mishit the buttons. You just put the wrong fucking date by a decade.
Yes.
When did he do that? When was his coup?
Oh,
the one that the Chavez coup?
The Carmona decree was 2002. The Tascon list was 2004.
So Chavez did a coup and then went to prison and then got out of prison.
But that was not a recall. No. That was not a recall referendum.
Okay, but when was that?
Chavez didn't do the coup.
It was in the early 1990s.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So they're confusing their dates.
Yeah.
Right.
It's another error in a book full of errors.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're confusing their own story.
Because that's what I thought. I thought they were saying, and I missed the Chavez presidency part. I thought they were saying after that failed coup thing in the early 90s that Chavez went to prison for, that's when they started, which was different than what they told us before. But if they just wrote the wrong date, then
they wrote
it's only one error. It's a less egregious error, though still an error.
Yeah. So lastly on here, it says they had in fact found a very effective new way of advancing the socialist communist agenda. No longer would strongmen like Augusto Pinochet in Chile or Banzer in Bolivia or Somoza in Nicaragua need to stage a military coup to capture the presidency. What the fuck? They didn't stage the coup. This was CIA overthrew Chile, overthrew Bolivia, and as far as Somoza, they installed Somoza. It was the Sandinistas that kicked him out of office. Somoza was a CIA puppet from start to finish. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Oh my gosh. Yeah, let's just wipe the CIA's presence in all three of those countries right off and say, we don't need to do that anymore. We've got these magic machines to do it.
This is the obvious takeaway of this book for me, of every aspect of it. And I said this, Brian, to you before we started reading it, based on the interview of the people who are in this book. It sounds like they're trying to get ahead of what's coming out, right? It sounds like they're trying to stay out of prison. They're trying to rewrite history. How is it that this book was published? It's talking about internal CIA, FBI, DEA, national security, national policy stuff. It was published, and as far as we know, the guy that published it isn't in prison for, treason or something. So how is it? It's because they're trying to rewrite the history of the region before the truth about it is going to come out, in my opinion. And it's real obvious to me that it is, like you just said, we're going to wipe our fingerprints off of South America. The CIA is wiping their fingerprints off of South America with this storytelling. And you can't do that. You can't, I don't think. And if the American people fall for it and allow it to happen, well, fucking shame on you, because you deserve it if that's the case, because this is obvious.
So the last line, like communism has been able to disrupt democracy, not just in Venezuela, but throughout Latin America. And they did it with Venezuela, computer programmers and engineers. Do you know what wiped democracy off the map in Latin America? The CIA. In every single country they overthrew, they installed a military dictator. And the first one in Guatemala, well, actually they were in Guyana, but they started in Guatemala and installed a military dictatorship. In Brazil, in Chile, in Uruguay, in Paraguay, all of them. Military dictatorship after military dictatorship, they destroyed democracy for all of Latin America.
This book, to Ash's point earlier, before we read that last couple paragraphs, this book was clearly written for people that have a very narrow focus on elections and want the hopium injection. They're looking for their next hopium fix. And so they read through this book and take everything at their word because it's authoritative sources. Yeah. And, to be honest, thank God. Well, to be totally fair here, I mean, me and Ash picked this apart before we even started reading the book. We identified the Venezuela op like immediately. And yeah,
because it started with the whistleblower testimony in Tina's case, and we covered that. And then the full magazine style interview spread of these two guys came out, right? And then there was the Zorro guy, but then we identified we've been following this, and it's these are not disconnected events. They want us to believe they're disconnected events, but they're not.
Well, and for your lay person that's reading this, they're going to take it at its word. But had Ash and I not had Colonel Towner to navigate this with us, like we honestly would have been lost on this. What's that?
Yeah, it would have been so much surface. We're getting a full blown history lesson here, plus with receipts and sourcing on the distinctions.
What's hilarious about this is you guys' expertise in elections and mine in nefarious CIA. It's like, there could be no better three people in the world to dissect this book for what it actually is. It is a psychological operation to seed a narrative that they wanted to permeate across America to thwart, as to Ash's point earlier, what's going to come.
Yep, I agree.
That's exciting, though. Isn't that exciting? That is exciting.
It's exciting that they felt the need to do it.
Yeah, exactly. They're trying to get ahead of something that they think is inevitable, because putting this story out is not without risk, right? There's a potential upside of hijacking the narrative to come and getting a bunch of supporters, right? The election integrity movement fell for this book. I can't tell you how many people have been up my ass about Patrick Byrne. I've followed Patrick Byrne for years. He wouldn't lie to us. He just told you he's fucking CIA and that he was fibbing before. Oh, but he must have done it for super duper good guy reasons. This stolen elections book is saving democracy. Eat all of the dicks. It is yeah.
Speaking of eating dicks, I think we have recruited Phil Scarborough to our team because he says I see now. Now I don't know if that means I see the light now, like this whole Venezuela narrative is op and it's bullshit, or I don't know.
I thought you were gonna say, speaking of eating dicks, we have to run Alpha's soft disclosure.
Well, that too.
Yeah,
Have you
the
seen this one yet?
entire book is crazy.
Yeah. Have you seen this ad yet, Colonel? Alpha's newest one?
Alpha's newest. Oh, you're gonna love
Which
it.
one? I don't know.
The
Everyone I see Alpha
the
in cracks me up.
Valentine's Day ad.
Well, you don't
No, I
actually
have
see him. You don't actually see him in it. So here we go, guys.
The following ad is rated M for mature. Soft Disclosure wants you to get naked this Valentine's Day with limited edition his and her bundles that save you 20% off the individual retail prices. Proprietary oil infusions, grass-finished beef tallow, goat's milk from American goats, locally grown herbs and ingredients. Soft Disclosure is putting America First fruits on your skin.
And for these sexy bundles, we've added an all-new boar's haired beard brush and a solid jade gua sha. And the reason I'm here is because Alpha doesn't know how to say these words.
Gusha. His, hers. We need a moment to calm down. Don't hide your skin. Disclose it. Get naked this Valentine's Day with Soft Disclosure. Head over to softdisclosure.com and save 20% off individual retail prices with our his and hers customizable bundles, and use promo code NAKED to save 15% off the rest of the site. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Promo code does not apply to bundle discounts.
I don't know how he does that without cracking up. I honestly
he's
no
wearing a
idea.
mask that time. Oh, you mean the read? That's easy.
Yeah, I have no idea. I would laugh my butt off.
No,
He
you get
says Valentine's.
that. He does say Valentine's.
And he
Also,
said it
I don't
3
know how.
times.
I don't know how after working with Ash for like 5 years to take like the Ash like sexy voice. It's
Oh
like,
yeah, my children could not watch that. They were very upset about it. Caleb's
It's
like, turn
weird.
it off.
I heard it the first time and I'm like, no.
Well, we
Hey,
have.
not-
He can't say
I know.
guasha. So I sent him phonetically how it was spelled out, and I sent him an audio file of how to pronounce it, and he still said it wrong.
Oh man.
I feel his pain. I'm really bad with that.
Yeah. So
So is Brian.
all right. Well,
Shout out to
you guys-
Ty, gifted 10 subscriptions to the Badlands Media Channel. Thanks, bro. Appreciate
that. I do have to say, in continuance of Y-Chrome's theme, and Jackie pointed this out. Say it again, ladies. CannCon was right. We weren't going to get through 6 and 7 tonight, so we'll do chapter 7 next week.
Yeah, I mean, I said that too.
No, you definitely did not. You said they're short chapters. We'll get through them. And
No,
I said,
I didn't. I told you I had notes on every single page. Anyway, it's
I'm checking.
things were said.
Okay, you might be.
I know
No,
I'm right.
you're not right.
He's checking you.
I am checking her. Oh no. Maybe it was in her private.
Oh, what? What happened? What happened? No, I never thought we were going to get through
I
6
said
and
we were
7
gonna
because
get
I literally for 6 and 7 I have notes on every page, and I knew we were going to.
I said we were going to get through 6 and 7. I was wrong.
Yes, Colonel Towner did say that. She said that 2 weeks ago too. She's like, we can totally get through these next 2 chapters. It's gonna be fine. No.
All right, guys. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. Be sure to hit that thumbs up. Tomorrow morning, Ash and I will be on Badlands Daily. Colonel, you want to plug your channels and where they can find you on the socials?
We do a 4 o'clock every day, doing books. Right now we're doing The Devil's Chessboard. We're talking about JFK's assassination and the CIA's role in it. And so you can find me at Colonel Towner on X. I have a Substack at the Colonel's Corner and a Rumble channel called the Colonel's Corner.
All right. Phil says we should write a counter op book to counter this one. Don't need to. We're doing this show, and you can send people to here. And to be honest with you, we're probably getting about the same readership that book gets. Although I will say that book is getting promoted by a lot of big accounts, and it's horrifying. And it's like, guys, have you actually read the book? Like, I mean,
going back to the encouraging part of it, like if you look at the quality of the book, and I'm not talking about the substance, right? The ideas of it, the quality of the publishing job, the editing job, the proofing of this. There's one part in the next chapter where it's like, is Hugo Chávez a different person than Hugo Chávez, or is that the same person and it's just another typo?
And also, they said
the book makes me want to get my red pen out.
Well, in the next chapter, they also name this guy and say he's the current vice president of Venezuela, and he wasn't the vice president since 2018. That was 8 years ago.
Yeah,
there's so many errors in this.
It's dog shit. It's literal dog shit.
Wasn't the guy that wrote it won like a bunch of Pulitzers and other awards and stuff?
Well, the Pulitzer is given out by globalists and the CIA and the intelligence.
New York
community.
Times best-selling author.
Yeah, there you go.
No, it's rushed. And we said this from chapter 1 when we first started reading it, this is very rushed. They had to get this out the door, right? And we've seen a lot of action in Venezuela since this book has been published. So that's not terribly surprising that they had an impending deadline that they had to meet. And what did they do? Well, they put out a book that really needs an edit. Like setting aside the ideas and the factual errors and the things that, God bless you, Colonel Towner keeps pointing to, General Franks and all of the things. Setting that aside, the book was not ready for publication. Like it's indisputable, but that implies they had to.
The hyphens in the middle of the words, in the middle of us.
Yeah.
So every bit of it, I'm like,
so Matt Trump pointed that out. He says almost every page has a spurious hyphenation like population. And I was thinking maybe that's
weird hard returns too. Sorry.
We're thinking that maybe that's like a code or something. So I've got all of them highlighted individually, and I'm going to put them all together at the end of the book and see if it comes out.
Don't you need a key though? Don't you need like
maybe. I mean, I'll run through some AI, platforms and be like, hey, try and decode this as like a I don't know, a cipher or something and see what you get out of it. But
are you on the spectrum?
Me? No, maybe
a little,
maybe a little bit, but I've never been told
in the shallow end.
You sound like Sheldon. My mom had me tested.
My mom did have me tested for IQ, not for autism. And I do have a gifted IQ, but I'm not on the spectrum as far as I know.
I'm pretty sure all moms tell their kids that, right?
No, I literally had to take an IQ test when I was in elementary school, and they put me in gifted, and I was like, this is boring. These kids are all dorks. All right, we're out of here. See you guys tomorrow morning, and stay tuned for Brad Nabby. Brad Nabby, and then Story Hour, right?
Yes, Brad Nabby is next. Then we have Story Hour. Then we have DEF CON 0, and it's going to be a banger this week. So stay tuned to Badlands Media. Hit the thumb, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.